I'm Julia Rowan, and this is the fourth video designed to help leaders to develop their coaching skills. And in this video, I'm going to look at the third element of coaching, which is asking great questions. The purpose of asking questions of our team member is to help them to draw on and build on what they already know, as well as to imagine new possibilities. We can see here the acronym GROW, and this is for the 4 different parts of a coaching conversation. So the goal, the reality. So goal is what do you want to achieve? Reality is what's happening right now. The options, basically saying there's a gap between the goal and the reality. So how might you fill that? And then finally, of all of these options that you've talked about, W, what is the way forward? And that kind of makes it look like coaching is a very linear conversation. In fact, these are the 4 parts of a conversation, but sometimes conversations which are around coaching can be iterative, they can be a bit messy, and they don't always go in a straight line. I find, for example, that a lot of people come and they want to talk about their reality, what's happening right now. There's either an opportunity or a challenge that they're facing into, and they want to do their best thinking about that. If that's where my client starts, that's where I'm going to start as well. And so I will explore the reality with them before moving on and inviting them to reflect on what their goal is. Occasionally clients come in and they start with their goal, so then obviously I start there as well, and we'll explore that before we explore reality. So let's have a quick look at some of the questions we might ask in these different parts of the conversation. So when we're talking about goal, the really important thing that we're trying to do by asking our questions is to help our team member to clarify what is it they really want, because sometimes people can be a bit vague about things. I want to run better meetings. I want to run a really successful project. I want to build my confidence. And we're going to ask questions to say, well, what would that look like? If you had built your confidence, how would you know? If you were running great meetings, what would be different? And we're really inviting our coachee to paint a clear picture of what it is they're trying to achieve. When we're talking about reality, we're talking about present and past. So it's happened and it's real. And we're going to use our questions to explore the present and the past, to give our coachee the opportunity to mine their own experience. Now up here the questions are very generic. You know, what is it you want to achieve? Here the questions will depend completely on the issue that we're talking about. So tell me what's happened up to now. How did you make that decision? What did you do next? How did you communicate that? And so on. The what questions and the how questions are particularly useful here. Now, often managers might feel, I kind of know the reality because we've talked about it a few times already, and there can be a tendency to rush on. You know, clarifying goals is kind of exciting. Generating options is kind of exciting. Sometimes this can feel a little bit pedantic, but actually if you can stay in here and help the person with hindsight and with the lovely space that you're creating for them to trek back through their experience, you'll find them generating insights and ideas and solutions as they go. So really make sure to take your time here. The O then stands for exploring and generating options. And here, you know, because we want to keep the focus on the coachee rather than share our own ideas, we're going to start with questions like, well, you've described what you want to achieve, you've described where things are now, so well, what could you do to bridge that gap? What are your options here? And what else could you do? And what else might work? So lovely broad questions that keep your team member generating options. If and when they get to the end of generating options, you may wish to share an idea by framing it as a question using words like, have you thought about? Have you thought about talking to John? Have you thought about going on a training course? What if you changed supplier? And so on. But those ones only come after you've asked the really lovely broad questions here. And then finally, having generated options, you want to work out a way forward. And I find that very often the way forward just really naturally emerges from the conversation that we've had. But if you want some questions around this, it might be about saying, okay, well, which one of these options will help you to achieve your goal? It might also be about getting more granular and sense checking around things like, what do you have time for? What do you have budget for? What will your team buy into? What will your stakeholders be happy with? And then, of course, how can I help you to achieve this? So that is the GROW model. There are many good books written about the GROW model and a lot of information online about this with some really good sample questions. For me, the questions are the third element in coaching. The first element being our intention when we're coaching our team member. The second element being the great listening that we do as they are talking. So I hope that you have found these videos useful, and I love helping leaders to develop a coaching style, so hopefully they'll work for you.